Hi, ghoul friends, and welcome to Haunted History, also known as Tales by Manda, who is me, your spooky host with the most haunted tales I can conjure up. So get your haunted passes ready, for we're going to one of the oldest buildings in my hometown of Rockford, Illinois. Welcome to the haunted history of the Tinker Swiss Cottage. Now, Robert Hall Tinker was born December 31st of 1836 in Hawaii to missionary parents. His childhood was pretty normal, but at the age of 15, he left school and started working as a bank teller. Now, how is that even possible confuses me, because this is the late 1800s, so times were different back then. But anywho, his uncle was visiting the family, and he took quite an interest in Robert and convinced Robert to move with him to Rockford to do business. And that's what Robert did. And while here in Rockford, he met the wealthy widow, Mrs. Mary Manning. For it being the 1800s, I'm sure there was gossip about their courtship at this time. But in 1862, Robert left for 9 months to travel Europe. I'm not sure if this was a business deal or just a 9-month getaway. That's very hearsay. But when Robert came back to Rockford, he purchased land across from Mary Manning's mansion on a limestone bluff that overlooked Kent Creek. He was extremely inspired by European architecture, and there's a spiral staircase that Robert built all out of a single piece of wood. So there's that. Robert also added to his yard a suspension bridge that overlooked Kent Creek and connect the houses between him and his beloved Mary. Now, I find that really sweet, as I could picture the two lovers meeting on the bridge and having picnics between both yards. I'm sure she also may have helped with ideas for the cottage as well, or even helped fund it. Mary and Robert were married April 14th of 1870. And another cute thing this couple did was they would live in Robert's cottage that he built in the winter, then in the summer months live in the mansion. Robert and Mary were a very influential couple in the Rockford area. At the age of 39, Robert Tinker was mayor, and this was in the year of 1875. And Robert had other important jobs, like being president of the Rockford Oatmeal Company and served for the Rockford Park District. He did a lot more as well, but I don't want to bore you guys. But keep this in mind though, because this does become influential as the story continues. Now in 1901, Mary Tinker passed away. She was 72 years old, and she passed away in the cottage. Now, Mary had a niece named Jessie, and here's some of Jessie's backstory. Jessie was the youngest of 5 kids. She was only a toddler when her parents moved to Rockford, and she spent a lot of her youth with her Aunt Mary and Uncle Robert Tinker. And her childhood was fairly normal. And then when Jessie was 35, she married a man named Guy J.C. Hurd. He was a dressmaker and artist in Chicago. But the marriage between Jessie and J.C. only lasted from 1894 to 1897. That's only 3 years, because Mr. Hurd passed away from an illness that caused strokes in the brain. So Jessie moved in permanently back to Rockford with her aunt and uncle, the Tinkers. And then in 1873, before Mary passed away. So Jessie experienced 2 heartbreaking losses. Now this story takes a turn because Robert just lost his beloved Mary, and Jessie just lost her love, JC. It was also very frowned upon or acceptable for 2 widows to live together. I don't believe Jessie had anywhere else to go though. So Robert and Jessie got married. They had a quiet, small ceremony in 1904, And some say that this was a marriage of convenience. And I see that being probable because Robert knew Jessie practically her whole life, and he may have had love feelings for her, but he probably also wanted to protect her because he didn't. She probably had no place to go, so it just kind of worked out that way. And she was his wife's niece. I don't know. It gives me the ick feelings, but I do get it. I mean, it is the historical times, but I don't know. But at the age of 71, Robert Tinker became a father when Jesse adopted a son named Theodore Teddy, who we'll call him Tinker. Now, some backstory on Teddy. Teddy was born in Freeport, Illinois. His mother was a daughter of a reverend, and Teddy's father was a race car driver who ended up passing away in a car accident. His mother gave Teddy up for adoption. Now, before we cast judgment, we don't know the ages of this young couple or what she was thinking when Teddy's father died, because raising a child as a single parent is really hard. Personal experience here. And it may have been a very tough decision for Teddy's mom to make. I mean, there's also all that grief from losing her partner. So, no judgment. But he was put in an orphanage in Freeport, which ended up catching on fire. All the children survived, so all the children were then relocated to an orphanage in Normal, Illinois, where Jesse ended up adopting Teddy. And at that time, he was only 10 weeks old. Now, to go back a bit, Teddy had a fairly normal childhood with the Tinkers, but Robert Tinker ended up passing away in the cottage on his 88th birthday, which was December 31st in 1924. Now that Robert was gone, Jesse made a deal with the Rockford Park District for her to stay in the cottage until she died, and then would donate the cottage to the city of Rockford, so they accepted the deal. So Teddy and Jesse had stability. When Teddy was 15, he left to join the military academy in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and at the age of 18, Teddy married a young lady named Gertrude, and they had a daughter named Rosemary. The family traveled and moved a lot. They lived in Loves Park, Illinois, then Des Moines, Iowa, settled in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then in 1945, Teddy and Gertrude filed for divorce. Gertrude and her daughter Rosemary moved to Arizona, and Gertrude was killed on a strip of highway after a truck ran into her. Then, a year later, their daughter Rosemary ended up with the same fate on the same highway. I couldn't find what years these happened in, but Teddy faced a lot of loss throughout his life. After Teddy's divorce, though, to Gertrude, he married a woman named Lois Jansen, and they had a daughter together and spent their life in Wisconsin. On May 26, 1984, Teddy died in a car accident. He was 76. Some say his spirit went back to where he was the most happiest, and that place would be the Tinker Swiss Cottage. Is it possible Teddy Tinker came home? Almost everyone died in this cottage, and I think anything is possible. The first to pass away was Mary's father Joseph in the house, then Mary, her husband Robert, then Jesse. Shadow figures are very commonly seen at this cottage, especially a figure of a woman in a flowy blue dress. Her favorite location is the kitchen. Guests will ask workers visiting the cottage, "Who's that lady in the kitchen? Is she a cottage keep or another worker?" Questionable looks will be given till it registers. They either saw Mary or Jessie Tinker. I mean, they were both women of the house. Strange noises have been heard in all the rooms of this cottage, and when you go into a room where you hear the noise, it goes quiet. Whistling and loud voices are heard, You could be in one room and a voice can be heard from another room so loud and clear. Ghosts have been touched and grabbed, not in a bad way, just touches on a shoulder or like a little trying to hold like your hand to squeeze it. Oh, and should I mention the creepy doll? There's a very creepy old doll that's in a cabinet that you can feel is watching you. Some say this doll will move an arm or a leg or change locations throughout the cabinet. Are you intrigued yet? This house isn't too far away from where I live. I have never visited this location. I've been past it and it's beautiful on the outside. I should visit, especially now that it's a museum and a place they do haunted tours. If you don't believe me on this haunted location, the Tinkerswitch Cottage was featured on an episode of Ghost Hunters, Season 8 in 2012. And even Jack Osborne, the son of the iconic Ozzy, had a ghost hunting show called The Night of Terror, and in 2022 was here at the Tinker Swiss Cottage. I'll have links below to the times when you can visit this mysterious cottage yourself. And if you have already visited this place, please leave me your comments and stories below. I would love to know your experiences. So there you have it, my spooky ghoul friends. I hope you enjoyed this spooky tale. I wish all my viewers a beautiful Thanksgiving. I hope to see you on the next Haunted History Tour. Have a frightful night. Love you guys.